Alrighty, everybody, welcome to this special episode of Brownsville Tech Live. And just like we've done for several weeks, we are continuing our city commissioner candidate interviews. And tonight, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to have Mr. Michael Rodriguez. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, I think this is your first time on the show, and hopefully it will not be the only time. You're invited
First
anytime.
time, first time on your show. Not the first time on a local podcast, but yeah, first time with you, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to speak to your viewers and speak to you, and get people informed about myself, most importantly, and on my platform and what I'm trying to achieve if I get elected.
Well, definitely, I know that I've seen you before. I know that, as you know, podcasting is a family affair in my family. At Osmo used to hold a podcast for a long time during the COVID era. And my cousin Frankie, as you know, is also
Hmm.
restarting his podcast as well. So it continues to be a family operation in some
Yes.
sense.
I spoke to Frankie. He messaged me last week, and I'm supposed to also do his podcast very soon as well.
That's good.
Um,
That's good.
yeah, so uh, his is normally 9 in the morning, and that's
It
the
is
time I'm having my
it
round of coffee at the local cafe.
Yeah,
But
I try to chime in uh on his show at 9 o'clock usually. But I tell him when you're gonna talk about SpaceX, I'll be there. Anything else, uh, let me let me know what it is, and I'll chime in if I have to. But when it comes to SpaceX, you know that I'm a big supporter of SpaceX. Some people have gone as far as calling me Elon's cheerleader, which, by the way, I'm not Elon's cheerleader, and he's not paying for this show, by the way. But a lot of people believe that. I don't know why, but anyway,
uh,
you know. But
I,
anyway,
I see the book in the back. Maybe that's why in the
right? I
background.
know, right?
It could be.
Yeah, he is. I did read that book. Believe it or not, it's a great book to read if you don't get an opportunity to catch the book. It is very interesting. It starts from his, birth in South Africa, and then his move to Canada, and then of course the startup of his companies. Because I don't know if you're aware, he started PayPal, right? He's the
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah,
sold it.
yeah, he sold it. He
Yeah.
sold PayPal, and then of course he started Tesla and then SpaceX. So yeah, so I've read his book. It's pretty interesting. He definitely keeps us all on our toes these days, positively and negatively. But we're not here to
Yeah,
talk
I,
about.
I no, but I heard somewhere where he sold it at, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars, and then invested it all. Almost
Right?
went bankrupt with,
Yes.
with with Tesla,
Yes.
and so he's a risk taker.
Yes.
There you gotta admire that.
Yeah. I
There's
mean, no
nothing
doubt
wrong
about
with
that.
admiring someone
Yeah.
who already made generational money and invested it all, risked it
Right.
all to make even more wealth.
Right.
So that's kind of
Absolutely.
someone to look up to. That's that scenario. In that sense.
Yeah, it's a very interesting book. If you get an opportunity, read it. And I've read, it's by the same author that wrote, it's Walter Isaacson. He also wrote the Steve Jobs book as well, which I've read as well. So those are my two icons, said as I've said before. So but anyway, we're here to talk a little bit about yourself. For those viewers out there that don't know you, can you give us a little bit a little bit of background about who you are, where you've been, what you've done, and why you decided to run?
Yeah, I mean, the why I decided to run is fairly simple. I tell people all the time, I'm biased. I want my kids to have a better Brownsville, and guess what? If my kids have a better Brownsville, your kids will have a better Brownsville too. Um, Becoming a father changed my life, my outlook on life in general, um, my priorities. So the main reason why I'm running is for my children. I mean, to for them to have something better, something to look forward to, something to stay. You know, a lot of our children, once they grow up, they tend to leave
Right.
to another college, better opportunities. Let's grow Brownsville so our children can stay. You know, we're Mexican, and we like to have family functions all the time, and
Right.
I don't see myself without my children. You know, and so I want them to stay. I want them to have the same opportunities that they can have in Houston, in Austin. My sister, you know, went to Austin. She graduated from UT and stayed there. She hasn't come back. We're still waiting on her to come back all these years later. I mean, 15 years since she graduated, but so she's still over there. She comes and visits often, but you know, that's the main reason for myself for wanting a better Brownsville. Yeah, it's for my children. I do want a better Brownsville for them. And if they get better parks, if they get better roads, if they get better drainage, I mean, if they get better opportunity, better economic development, then it benefits us as a whole. Um, if we go to my background, I mean, public education, Cromac. Then I said was
You're a
sent to
Chromac
Morningside
Lion?
with
You're a Chromac
yeah,
Lion?
yeah.
So,
Well, pre-K, kinder, first grade.
wow.
Then
Well,
I
so
was
was
sent to
I.
the
So was
then I
I.
was sent to the GT program at Morningside because back
Uh,
then Morningside was the one that had the gifted and talented program.
yeah, I
So I
remember
was at
that.
Morningside to fifth grade, and then I was actually zoned to go to Besteiro, but they didn't have a sixth grade program, so I went to Del Castillo
Ah,
for sixth grade. And then once I was already gonna go into seventh grade, I was no longer zoned to Besteiro, I was zoned to Falk, so went to Falk.
yeah.
Then I went Porter, graduated from Porter, attended UTB, now in the UTRGV system, and graduated from there with a bachelor's in business administration with a focus in marketing.
Yeah.
So that's my education. After that, I was working for 18 years with my brother at the mall. And I learned a lot about running a business, about negotiating some of the rental contracts, trends, you know, our shopping trends, um, the marketing and especially the trends of like Semana Santa. When does Mexico have holidays? Because we have an influx of shoppers that come in uh, and focus on them to their needs because their needs and their shopping trends are not usually necessarily the same ones that we do here.
Right.
So I was there with my family at the mall, and for 18 years, and then I branched out on my own. While I was working at the mall, I started the income tax office where I'm at here on Southmost. I'm recording from the income tax office on Southmost right now, and so I started that. This year is my 10th year doing income tax return. So as you very well know, it's hectic for us or anybody that's in the income tax. So imagine doing taxes and then running a campaign. And like I told you a little while ago, I didn't go to sleep last night till 7 because I was working on a push card that I need to bring out on a new one. So
Yeah.
slept about 2.5 hours and got up, went to go get my coffee and do some meetings and then come to the office. I'm still here.
Yeah. No, well, definitely, I definitely know what you're going through, believe it or not. I've never ran for a political campaign, but I did run a campaign, and believe me, it was hectic. It was hectic in itself. So, but definitely what you described is, what a lot of people perceived for a lot of years, which was the brain drain, right? Where a lot of kids, including myself, by the way, I left Brownsville after graduating from high school. And by the way, I went to Cromac, I went to Oliveda, and I graduated from Porter. So I'm a fellow Porter cowboy myself. And after graduation from high school, there was really no computer science program, a 4-year computer science program at the time. I believe that it was 2 years. And so the only place I could go was to Del Mar, I think in Corpus or further up north. So I ended up moving to Houston, And by accident, I actually came back to the Valley, believe it or not. I sent my resume as a joke, and the joke was on me because I got hired. And so I came back. I came back here, and I'm glad I did, because I'll tell you, Mike, after living in Houston for 5.5 years, living in the big city, right? Having to travel an hour just to get anywhere, right? To the mall, to
Mhm.
eat, anywhere, right? It gets tiring. And then of course, having to go to a beach like Galveston, believe me, you appreciate the valley, you appreciate Brownsville, and you appreciate South Padre so much more after being gone for 5.5 years. And it's our home, right? It's our home. At the end of the day, this is our home. This is where we've chosen to build our families, and we hope that they stick around, and we want the same opportunities or better opportunities for them as well, so hopefully, we can definitely stop. I don't know, how much of a brain drain there still is. I mean, obviously the dynamics and what kids now are going into or majoring in is a little different from when I was in school, but there definitely appears to be an economic boom happening in the city. Not everybody is experiencing it, right? Some people feel like, they see elites, and I don't like to use that term, but I can't find any other term for it. But, there's elites that obviously seem to be benefiting from the boom, and then there's others that don't, right? And I think we have that situation.
So,
We have that
so we
feeling.
can kind of say that the connected and the disconnected.
Exactly. Yeah, the connected and the disconnected. That's absolutely right. Depending on what private school you go to, right? So, but yeah, I mean, definitely our city is definitely experiencing a boom. I think you saw last week the mayor had his state of the city address, and I'll be honest with you, I was talking to Frankie this morning, and I said, Frankie, do you know who the outfit was that put that presentation together? Because I mean,
Was
excuse
top
me,
notch.
yeah, I mean, it was top notch. I mean, I even used, excuse the word I'm going to use, it was kick ass, right?
Yeah.
It was nice. So,
The product. I mean, I watched it. I didn't attend live. I watched it on YouTube. But I mean,
yeah.
from what I saw on YouTube, the production was top notch. I mean, everything was just
Oh, yeah.
ran.
I mean, it was
I
pretty
mean, to the
impressive.
T.
It was pretty impressive. And obviously, there are things that are happening, no doubt about it. There's industry that is coming in. They just announced Linde. Linde is the company, is the SpaceX supplier that supplies the liquid oxygen. And I don't know about the methane, but at least the liquid oxygen, they are the one of the suppliers to SpaceX for the rocket launches. And so they've
Mhm.
decided to build a facility. I guess they're going to build some kind of facility here in somewhere, I guess in the port or somewhere, to supply SpaceX with the liquid oxygen. Because I think right now, I think when you travel up north, every once in a while you'll see those tankers with the liquid oxygen, and they're coming down. So I guess they're gonna they're gonna try to produce it here. So that's gonna be kind of interesting, right? So you see that trickle down effect, right? Because and
Mhm.
I worked for the maquiladora industry for a long time, and I saw it all the time. An automotive part supplier, manufacturer would come in, and then everybody that supplied that company eventually relocated or put set up shop here. So like we had plastic suppliers that would supply the little plastic resin that would then go into the plastic injection molding machines to make the parts. Those suppliers moved down. We had steel suppliers, people that supplied certain types of steel. They moved down at well. So there's always a trickle down effect, right? Which means more jobs, right? And that doesn't mean
Correct.
just necessarily logistics. It can also mean sometimes they're setting up manufacturing. Now, I don't know if you know, but in addition to Elon Musk, we also Elon Musk and Alonso Cantu, which are two of the richest guys in the area, right? Alonso Cantu is responsible for most of the development up in Hidalgo County. You know, he's the one that built the Edinburgh Arena and a few other developments in McAllen, right? Well, we have a third billionaire, believe it or not, in the area. I don't know if you've ever heard of a company called Starkey Technologies. They
No, I haven't.
they manufacture ear uh what should we call it? Ear for people that can't hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can
And
hear
so
peace.
yeah, so he is the third richest person here in the area, believe it or not. And his
So
company manufactures hearing aids. Hearing aids.
hearing aids, yeah. You know what? I now thinking back, I had heard about a billionaire here in the valley that produced hearing aids.
Right. And
Thinking back on it now.
that's right here in Brownsville. It's right there on Billy Mitchell. That's where the facility is at. So yeah, so we've got a few billionaires, but also businesses. And what do you think some of the most pressing issues are currently facing the city? If you could share with us what you think some of the most pressing issues are.
I mean, for me, it would have to be our permitting department,
Right.
because that ties back into economic development. It ties back into attracting businesses, and most of our, all you hear is the big businesses, the ones that make the news.
Right.
But honestly, our economy runs on the small businesses.
Right.
And there's more people employed by small business, and we really are that vital part. That small business owner, that little restaurant owner, that I have a pet grooming shop. I don't believe I had told you I have an income tax office, but I have
Right.
a pet grooming shop as well. So we're the ones, hiring, and paying our taxes, collecting taxes for the state, collecting taxes for the city. We open up more businesses, we create more high paying jobs. Our city retains 2% of the sales tax. So how much money are we losing out uh, by putting obstacles? And I can just tell you from my personal experience, when I was opening Awful Pups, I went in and I was ready for my final inspection to get my certificate of occupancy. And so I go in and they tell me, you haven't turned in your floor plans. And I told them, well, what do you mean I haven't turned in my floor plans? I have a permit. What is the first step to obtaining a permit? You turn in your floor plans, you get them approved, you get me the permit, I start building out, then I have green tax for electrical, green tax for plumbing. So now I'm here for my final CO. For my final inspection to get my CO, and you're telling me that you don't have the first step, which is the floor plans? Like, that makes no sense. So for 3 months, I would go, sit down. They would tell me, there's nothing here. You need to produce your floor plans. I said, there's no way, because I already produced them. Finally, I got fed up after about 3 months. And I took my contractor and I sat down with Mr. Ochoa there, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to open anymore. I just want to get my money back. This is my life savings. I always say it's my kids' money. It's not my money, it's my kids' money. All the money I try to make, it's for them. So they can start off in a better place than where I started. So I said, I don't want to open anymore. I just want to sue somebody, and I want to know who I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue the contractor, or I'm going to sue the city,
Right.
because this is not acceptable. I'm paying $3,000 a month.
Right.
3 months have gone by. That's $9,000. I'm losing money. I already invested $42,000 into remodeling the location and buying everything you need and obtaining the permits and all the expenses. I said, I can't do it anymore. It drove me to go to church, and I ran into you at ICC a couple of times. I still go to church. I mean, the positive from all of that, it was that I'm still going to church to this day. and I enjoy going to church. It's changed my life a lot. I felt that once I started going to church, doors just opened for me, and
Right.
you know, I feel like I really got blessed, and I've grown uh, very fond of the church. And you know, like I said, I ran into you there on something. I don't like talking too much because I was never that guy that wanted to that like to hear, you know, people kind of like go. So I really don't like talking too much about it or preaching it
Right.
because I feel like everybody needs their space and at their own time they can, you know, find God. And for me, I mean, it was two things. Honestly, it was the fact that I had invested my life savings into this project and it wasn't going anywhere. And the second part that I spoke to, and it's kind of was that my wife lost a baby. We were pregnant with our fourth child, and she lost a baby. And I said, how can I help her? And really support her. And my wife, she's always been Christian. She always you know, gone to church, and I would stay home and watch the Cowboys play. That's maybe the third reason why I started going to church, right? The Cowboys.
Cowboys were
And
losing.
yeah, so
Or praying for the Cowboys. Or praying for the Cowboys, right?
we go and we pray hard. So you know, I started going to church. I said, God, please, man. I mean, I don't know what to do. The city is not helping me, and I have no more money. I had paid for a funeral. Uh, I that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to get my money back, cut my losses, and never again. And just going around speaking to people. I have customers. I was doing his taxes. I said, "Man, you're doing well with the daycare. Are you thinking of opening up a second one?" He said, "Yeah, I'm actually in the process of looking for locations."
Yeah.
I said, "Great. Is this one going to be in Brownsville? Because I noticed that you're in out of San Benito." I said, "Never am I coming back to Brownsville.
Oh my gosh.
Never." And I said, "Why?" I said, he told me, "I tried to open on Central, behind the Michoacana around there." And he said, "For 6 months, I was paying rent, trying to get my certificate of occupancy. Nothing ever happened. I had to shut down, cut my losses. I went to San Benito and I was open in a month."
Yeah.
Now, what is the difference? I mean, are we? I know we follow the international building codes, um, but why that big gap? Uh, the widening gap of 1 month to 6 months and still not open.
Right.
You know, 1 month and you're open in San Benito, 6 months and you're not open. You know, you're still waiting for permits. We need to fix that.
Right.
And I told people privately, and I told them at my meet and greet that I had at my house. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I feel like politicians are not accessible. I invited people over to my home. I
Right.
said, you know, I don't want to do a generic meet and greet. I don't want, you know, to go to rent out a party place and invite people over or a restaurant. I want you to come to my house. My
Right.
wife cooked for you guys, and
Yeah.
we served about 115 plates, 40 hot dogs. At the end, some people didn't even eat, but I ate a hot dog. But I want you to come and meet me and my family where we live. You
Right.
know, where we want to be genuine. Maybe it's the fact that I'm not a politician.
Right.
Uh, I'm Mike. I I want to get to meet you. I want us to be friends,
Right.
and I want to know how I can help you. Just like going back to uh, the pandemic, um, businesses were shut down. What did I do? I took an online accounting course on how to apply for the PPP loan,
Right.
the Paycheck Protection Program. Um, and then I offered my services to people for free
Right.
when online they were charging 15-20%.
Right.
And I helped elected officials with their PPP loans. And I did it all for free because I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought that if we want to be leaders, we gotta lead. And I was able to help about 40 or a little bit more than 40 businesses, small businesses. And we secured a little bit over, I would say a little bit over $1 million in funding for them to sustain because they were shut down.
Right.
There was no, I mean, they still had rent. Uh, they still
Yeah, the
had
rent
to,
still
I mean,
due, right? The rent still due. The electricity
PUB
still
still,
due.
the lights still do.
Right.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, so it was a tough times, but I think and I would do that's I think the last time I was on podcast and I was with Erasmo and I had actually I don't know if you're aware of this, I ran for city commission in 2019
I believe I
against
remember that. Yeah.
for District 1 and Norris Golaski was actually won that race and after that I was kind of like, oh, I was a little bummed out. Looking back on it, I mean, it's all God's timing, and I think it was a perfect timing because my kids were young.
Right.
My kids were very young. They were, I want to say 5, 4, and 2 or 4, 4, 3, and 1 or 2. I mean, they were very young. They needed my full attention. And my businesses was growing. By that time, I was already open my pet grooming shop, and I had my income tax and the pet grooming, and they needed my attention as well. So, looking back on it, it was a learning experience, and just like everything is a learning experience, and I going back to when I was with my brothers at the mall with they have sunglass shops, and we would hire people, and you could tell a lot of times that, oh, well, I'm just here because just starting and I don't really care. Like I said, that's fine. You're gonna go off to college. That's great, but learn about as much as you can about business. Learn as much as you can about trends. You never know. Maybe later on down the road, you open up your own business. And a few of them did, and a few of them are still in business, and some of them in the mall as well. So just learn. Everything is a learning experience, and we gotta grow. We gotta grow every time. Fill ourselves with knowledge.
Yeah. Well, definitely you pointed out, that definitely it is difficult to do business here in Brownsville. It's not the first time that we've heard it. I think you and I have shared personal stories of trying to open up businesses and running into obstacles. And of course, hearing other people, right, that have tried to open up business that say that, it's very difficult to open a business here in Brownsville, right? It's very difficult. And one of the things that I think, you always wonder, are we just too strict with our codes? Are we too strict with our regulations? Do we have too many of them? Or
I remember back then was you submitted your floor plan, and they review it. They ask you for changes, whatever needs to be changed. And you go back and do it, and then you submit your updated floor plans, and they go to the back of the line. So now you gotta, say it takes 1, 2, or 3 days or a week for you to update the floor plans,
yeah,
turn them in, and now they're in the back of the line. And whoever turned in floor plans in that time frame, well, you're behind them now.
yeah,
So there's things that we got to change. The simple fact that my floor plans were lost and sir, you never turned them in. How can that be? How can we be taking serious as a city if we misplaced floor plans, and we're telling businesses that want to invest in Brownsville, they want to take their hard-earned money and put it into our city. Tell them, no, you never turned it in. Go do it again. Come back. It's
yeah,
those type of things that we need to be a little bit more proactive, a little bit more business friendly, and be open for business. One of the things that I've spoken about is that I want to create a small business task force and I know we have BCIC, and they're doing a good job with their business side, but I feel like small businesses are not truly represented, and then we create a task force where we can go to.
Right.
I mean, we have task force. We have a task force for youth sports. We have a ethics board. We have, um, I mean, many kinds. I know we have an LGBTQ task force. And I feel for parks and recreation. I mean,
Right.
there's a bunch of boards. There's about 25 boards that all help out the city,
Right.
which is great.
Well, one of the things
But
that
I feel like
yeah, go
we
ahead.
haven't gotten the small business task force,
Right.
and I
Well,
think that could help us out.
well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about because I know that I've heard this before, and I was a little in shock a few weeks ago when I heard about this. I don't know if it was true, but one of the things is that, it almost seems when you hear from business owners, other than if they're not residing in downtown, is that the rest of the business owners never find out about the great things that are being offered by BCIC or even eBridge. For example, grants and things like that. Most people said, I didn't know anything about it. Nobody told me anything, right? In fact, I don't know if this was true or not, but there is a local blogger. He's not really a podcaster, he's a blogger, and he posted some kind of post like 4 weeks ago that said that the city had granted him a grant for blogging. And I thought to myself, wait a second. Here we are. I can name about 4 podcasters in the city that would have loved to have known that there was a grant for that. And none of us knew, and none of us were able to apply. It could have paid off a few bills. But it's
Well,
like it's like nobody knows about these things until after the fact. I even found out because I'm an IT guy, some guy that apparently attended some seminars for IT stuff down at eBridge, and I said I didn't even know about it. I said, yeah, they hold it every Friday at 9 o'clock. I said I didn't know about it, but I've heard these stories. It seems like nobody knows about these things except the well connected, for some reason.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad BCAC is kind of changing their grant monies to include parks and renovations to geared towards quality of life, but mainly towards children. I just attended um uh let's just put a kickboxing event, an amateur kickboxing event at the Brownsville Rec Center there, the old Boys and Girls Club downtown, and the AC was out. The AC wasn't working. So we have people coming to visit Brownsville from Houston, Austin, San Antonio, the Valley, and they come and their first impression of Brownsville is that we don't have working AC. It's hot. It's 85 degrees inside. Trust me, I was there. You go to the restrooms inside. My little 8-year-old boy is scared to go by himself to the restroom at the rec center because there's holes in every wall. It looks like it's out of a Freddy Krueger movie or something. I mean, it's no, I mean, I'm serious. I attend regularly. I have kids in sports, and the restrooms get upgraded. As a city, we should always put our best face forward,
Right.
especially when we have competitions, people coming from out of town spending money, getting hotels in Brownsville, and what we're showing them is and good thing it didn't rain, even though it had rained previously on Thursday, and yeah, on Thursday, on Friday. But I was there one time for my son's basketball game, and it was thundering outside, thunderstorm. The roof was leaking. I'm creating a hazard for the kids. I mean, playing basketball, they can slip, they can hit their head. I mean, they had towels everywhere. So, I mean, grant money from BCIC towards upgrading facilities that need to be upgraded, that have served their community for decades. I mean, I was going to the Boys and Girls Club, and I played it at the Boys and Girls Club, and summers I attended the Boys and Girls Club, the one downtown and the one at Gonzalez Park. And they've hosted many events throughout the years, but grants for that is great. Grants for buying downtown buildings is great. But we got to look into, there's going to be a clause in there somewhere as well where you can't flip that building. If you're getting $200,000, $300,000 grants to refurbish a building, then you go, once it's done, you go and flip it. I mean, we gotta get compensation from that. I mean, there's got to be a clause. I remember back in 2008 when the government came out with that first time home buyers, right? They wanted people to
Right.
buy homes. We're coming out of recession, and you couldn't sell that home, and it was you were repaying it back
Right.
little by little with your income tax. So I think because at the end of the day, it is taxpayers' money that they're granting, and
Right.
I think the taxpayers need a little bit more of a say of where that money is going and how are we benefiting as a community, the whole community. How are we benefiting from it?
What do you one of the things that I know I talked about with some of the other candidates was obviously downtown, right? District 4 comprises of downtown, I believe, and a few
Mainly,
other
mainly most of the downtown. Yeah.
most of the downtown. And obviously, there's
Mhm.
been quite a bit of improvement downtown. There's more restaurants, more bars, and of course they're every other week you hear about somebody starting up something new. But one of the things that I wanted to talk that I've kind of talked about a little bit is the lack of parking. I kind of joke around with some of the other candidates that I'm the only guy that will admit that I passed my driver's license while failing my parallel parking, and I'm not a fan of parallel parking at all. I wish we'd get rid of it, right? And I know one of the commissioners said that there's actually a different way on how to actually structure parking where you can get more parking instead of parallel parking. But parking is a problem. Parking is a problem downtown, especially now with all these bars and restaurants opening up, especially on Washington. You can't park. You can't park even to go eat there, drink there, party there. You can't do that. And then we saw the same thing during Sombrero Fest, right? Where it's hard to find parking. In fact, you end up being taken advantage of by people charging, a ton of money for parking. But it's a problem. And, I know that the zoo, for example, they've got plans to upgrade the zoo. And one of the things is a parking garage. And I know we have one downtown. And I think we finally got it back from what it was being used for. But do you think parking is a problem downtown? What can we do to alleviate the parking? Do you think that we need to build more parking garages? Because obviously, there's not a whole lot of land out there. I mean, what's your take, especially if we continue to develop downtown? I mean, we've got to deal with the parking issue, right?
Right. I mean, if you're telling me my personal view of the parking situation, kind of what we're talking about, I honestly a lot of times I have skipped going downtown because of the parking.
Right.
You go to any of the Garibaldi events held downtown, First Fridays, where I've used the parking garage. Sometimes my wife asks to be dropped off close to the event, not because she doesn't want to walk the 2 blocks, because she doesn't feel safe sometimes, and that's just honest to God, you know. Um, she's like, well, drop me off over here, and then I'll wait for you where there's people, and then you go park. And some of that did come, that fear did come from what you're talking about when it was being used for processing and
Right.
other things.
Right.
So that did come. Do we need more parking? Definitely, definitely. I think that parking garage is being underutilized, and mainly because I feel like it was left a little bit on the outskirts,
Right.
more to service the buses and the
Correct.
terminal, but nobody really uses it for that. I mean, where we could have used it was more in the center of downtown. We have a few parking lots, not big enough to hold that, but maybe they could have invested in buying out a little bit of the land to put it more in the center. Could have serviced Sombrero Fest a lot better,
Right.
since you were also speaking of Sombrero Fest.
Right.
But now it's a little bit further away. For Sombrero Fest, I don't mind walking in boots. So I parked at the tax assessor parking lot and walked it over.
Right.
Free. I don't mind it. You mind it a little bit at midnight when you're walking back and
Right.
you're still in boots and you walk 10 miles and said hi to everybody. So you feel it a little bit more on the way back, but it's fine.
So what's
I didn't mind that.
So, what's your take on Sombrero Fest? Should it continue to be at Washington Park, or should it be moved to the sports park? Because you've
The
because you've heard the complaints. I mean, you've heard the complaints that it's too small. In fact, that was it the Thursday night where they had like 10,000 people, which was like incredible, right? Totally incredible that there was that many people. But there's people that are saying no, because that's the reason we should move it to the sports park. I'll tell you what my opinion is. I'm not so sure I'm in favor of it because I think Sombrero Fest being at Washington Park keeps the feel of Sombrero Fest versus, so far north of the city. I don't know. I mean, what's your
well,
take?
yeah, I I um I usually take my kids to the parade, and then we walk it over to Sombrero because there's less people, so my kids can enjoy the rides that they have, and enjoy the food, and all the events that they host. So in that regards, it's easy. I believe this last time I parked at the church, um, and then I walked it over to yeah. I mean, it is about a 4 block, 5 block walk, but when I guess when you're excited to see other people, you don't see it or feel it. But we saw the parade, and then we walked it over, and then we walked back to our vehicle. I think I saw some of the this time around. I saw bikes taking people, giving people rides, and the pedicab. So I think more of that it is useful. Do we need to move some rail fest? I don't think so. I think it's tradition. It's kind of like saying, do we need to move the parade as well? I think we are fine. Some people do make money by charging more, but hey, I mean, if someone's willing to pay it, and you're willing to rent out your land,
Yeah.
I'm all about business and being entrepreneurial, and that's fine. I mean, with me, it's okay. I
It
know,
is
and
America after all, right? It is
it
America.
is, and if you can get it, and someone's willing to pay it, why not? Go for it. I've done it. I paid $20-$30 just because I didn't want to walk. You
Right.
know, I didn't do it this year. Like I said, I usually just parked at the uh, tax assessor, and then I walked it over, and then we walk it back, and there's the other bars kind of close by.
Right.
It was fine.
And one of the topics that I've brought up in the last few interviews, and I know this is not really a city issue, but well, it's a city issue, but it's not as it doesn't appear that it's going to be a city responsibility. As over the last several years, we've kind of discovered that, we lack facilities to hold big events, right? UTRGV decided to no longer hold commencement ceremonies here in Brownsville for UTV RGV graduates. So now the families have to go all the way to Edinburgh to watch their kid graduate. You also know that recently, when Veterans Memorial made it to the playoffs, we even found out that Sam Stadium was inadequate, right? Inadequate both in seating, and they were inadequate in parking, right? Parking's always been a problem at Sam Stadium. But obviously, as you know, there was an attempt twice by the county, at least twice, where they apparently wanted to build an arena. And I don't like using the term arena because the cats come out with their claws and their teeth, and they're, they attack right away. But the concern was obviously by some that taxes were going to go up, right, or property values were going to go up. But at the end of the day, our taxes still went up and our property values still went up, right? And we had no arena, right? But what we do see, and a lot of people have reported, is the decrease of sales tax revenue, Brownsville primarily versus the entire valley. And one of the things that I know is coming up, I don't know if it's May or whether it's November, but there's the county's going to reattempt to try to put this for a vote again. And one of the things is obviously we do recognize that we don't have a multi-venue of some sort to handle big events. And as a result of that, we actually have a money drain problem leaving the county, right? We have people that are going over to Hidalgo, they're going out to see a concert. So they're spending money on a concert, right? And not only do they do that, they go out there, they just don't go to the concert, they eat out there, right? And then in addition, if they get an opportunity, they'll go to the mall to shop, right? And then if they're too drunk or too tired, they'll stay at their hotels, right? To stay. So all that money leaves Cameron County over to Hidalgo. I mean, what's your take? Do we need to have some kind of multi-venue facility? I know that it shouldn't be the city's responsibility, right? Obviously, the county would take the lead in that. But one of the things that I've advocated was that maybe it should be a combination of county, city, and maybe reaching out to a rich billionaire that lives 27 miles away. After all, he did want to buy, by the way, this was true. He did want to buy the Liverpool soccer team a few years back. And what better place to relocate a soccer team to the soccer capital of the world right here in Brownsville, right? So,
That's right.
right? So there definitely appears to be lots of money that seems to be leaving Cameron County to Hidalgo County. And as a result of that, their sales tax revenue continues to go up while ours continues to stagnate. I mean, what's your take? I mean, do we need a facility? Do we upgrade the ones we have? I mean, one of the biggest problems that we've always had for years at the Brownsville Sports Park continues to be underutilized, right? Underutilized. What's your take? What should we do? And granted that it's not a complete city issue.
Mhm. Um, as far as what I would like, I mean, I've gone to just recently in September, I believe. I don't go to too many concerts, to be honest. But in September, Grupo Frontera was doing their last leg of the tour in Edinburgh. My kids love Grupo Frontera, so I decided to take my whole family. If you know me, I'm all about my family. Kids doing things together, trips together. So we went to go watch as a family. My wife, my 3 children, go watch Grupo Frontera. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I did spend, I think it was probably a little bit over 1,000 with all the tickets, and then the big purchase was the tickets, and then you go and the kids want shirts, and
right.
so you're buying shirts and you're buying merchandise, you're buying food. So I didn't have to stay with her because I didn't drink. I was with my children, so I didn't get tipsy. But I did leave money over there where I would have left it here.
Right.
My buddy Rudy Juarez, he does Juarez promotions of boxing, and I just went to his boxing event at in Hidalgo, and I saw all of Brownsville was there.
Right. Exactly.
Supporting our Brownsville local talent. And it was being held in Hidalgo. So
right.
everybody
We're
has
making
to
them rich. We're making them rich.
We are leaving the sales tax over there.
Right.
Now what we have to see is, okay, do we need it? Me personally, I say yes, we do need it. We need somewhere where we can attract bigger events, quality of life. That goes back to the quality of life. That goes back to people wanting to stay in the sun. Oh, there's nothing to do. Okay, we'll offer you these things to do,
right.
so you won't be bored, right? So
Right.
you can go out and go watch. I think one of your previous shows, somebody said Shakira, or you said Shakira.
I did.
Go watch Shakira.
I did. Shakira comes to the valley. You bet I'll be there.
So you can go watch them. I'm more of a wrestling guy, so WWE. I've gone to go watch WWE all the way to San Antonio for Royal Rumble event they had a few years back. So I'm a big wrestling guy, but yeah, we go to. I think you've mentioned. I'm taking my kids to Disney on Ice. I'm taking my kids to watch the monster trucks. So I don't do too many concerts, but I do go often. Maybe not too often. I mean, I know some people that go a lot,
Right.
maybe 3-4 times a year to go and leave my money there. I do shop local though. That's the one thing, because I'm a small business owner, so I do understand the sales tax revenue, right? The 2% that Brownsville keeps. So I that's the one thing I never do. I never go shopping in McAllen, even though people say they had better stores. I'm not a big guy on name brand clothing. You know, the clothing here at the Dillard's or here at the mall will suffice for me.
Right.
I don't have to go to any particular store in McAllen or anywhere else. So I do tend to shop local, and I'm big on that.
Right.
Shopping here, leaving your money here, because your money turns here. Your money
Right.
generates more growth here if it stays here. You leave it in McAllen, generates growth in McAllen.
Right.
You leave it here, generates growth here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but going back to the arena, you said our taxes did go up, and you're right. Our taxes went up. I went to go fight my taxes.
Right.
My first home I bought when I first got married, bought it for no more than 60,000 with everything already, you know, included
Right.
fees and closing costs and all that. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, I'm talking about, it was less than 10 years ago, I would say.
Right.
Right now, now that home I rented out, and they raised up my property values to 232,000. Said what? I mean, it's great on paper for me.
Right.
I love being worth more on paper.
Right. Right.
But I went to go fight them. Why did I do that? Because in order for my renter to keep paying low rent, the taxes need to stay low.
Right.
And I went in, and that was my argument. I said, I'm glad that I'm worth more on paper.
Yeah.
I'm glad. But my renter cannot pay more in rent.
Right.
And if you're gonna raise up triple my taxes, then my renter, I'm gonna have to go up on his rent, on his end. And it's not fair for him because he can't handle that extra $200.
Right.
So I mean, Eddie lowered it down a little bit, not too much to where I wanted it, but. And then my other home, I also, and I have another lot. I protested it as well. I said, "Sir, you're protesting. We didn't raise your taxes. I know you didn't raise them this year. You raised them the past 2 years.
Right.
I want them lower. You know, I'm here to get that lowered as well." I was like, "No, it's gonna stay the same." I'm like, all right, well, I tried it. I feel like I at least tried, even though you spend the whole day there, and
yeah.
Sometimes, most of the times, you don't get the outcome that you want.
Now, one of the things that you hear quite often, and you know, whether it's fair or unfair, right, is that some people blame SpaceX, right, for all the taxes being high, all the properties being high, but in reality, they've kind of really gone high everywhere, right, across the valley, across the state, even across the country. And SpaceX is not everywhere, right? So, I mean, I know that the cost of materials has gone up, you know, quite a bit. You know, that has contributed to costs as well. I mean, what do you think? Is it fair to blame SpaceX for all our troubles here in the city of Brownsville?
No. It was just the right bubble. If you're gonna blame anybody, let's blame COVID.
Right.
Because people had more money, low interest rates, because they wanted the economy to keep on, you know, the money flowing, right? So,
Yeah.
so people got the stimulus. Then compared to low interest, that's also why I wanted to buy another house. My motivation, I come from South Mall, so I was perfectly fine staying in South Mall, where I have bought my first home. But I saw my kids, man, they shut down the parks, right? We couldn't even go to the park.
Right.
And I didn't have the land to put a play set for my kid. I at the end, I ordered a trampoline and I put it in the driveway, and then I would park my cars outside in the street, because I didn't have the space to put it anywhere else. I had a storage shed in the back. I had a carport. also in the front. So it was just right in front of the one car garage. That's where I put it, and that's what my kids would do. So that's why I started looking to buy a home. But all the homes were selling, and they were selling because people had money for the down payment because of the stimulus that they had saved up. Not only the stimulus, I mean, you were seeing tax returns that the most I saw that year was 22,000.
Oh wow.
22,000. So they were giving you, they weren't capping the children, and every single child was getting the child tax credit, right?
Yeah.
So there's people that had 8 kids, that's
Wow.
16,000 right off the bat.
Right.
And if they were young kids, and it went higher. So
Wow.
there was money being just given out. You had the PPP loans as well. You had the EIDLs with a lot of people. I got that loan as well for small businesses to generate economic growth, and they did. They started buying land. I said, well, you know what? I got this PPP in the lump sum. I'm paying rent of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000. Well, I might as well just invest it into a building right now when the interests are 1%, 2%. You know,
Right.
I still bought my home, and it was the interest I received was like a 2.7. Right
Right.
now, with a perfect 840 credit score, you're getting a 6%
Right.
on the home. So that's why there was the whole market frenzy. Like, I want to buy, I want to buy, I want to sell one. I want to sell high because people have money. They don't care. They just want to buy because they
Right.
want to get out of the 30-year mortgage at a 4 or 5% and get into a new one at a 1.5, 1.9, 2.3. And it's a newer home. Even though it costs more, their payment is lower now.
Right.
So that whole movement of how much you asking for? Well, I'm asking for 200,000. I'll give you 210. Oh, I'll give you 220. Oh, wow. Okay. So that was the excuse that the appraisal district used to raise up everybody. Say, oh, you know what? Comparables are selling with one car garage. The comparable is selling for 250,000 down the street. So your house is worth 235. But I bought that house 6 years ago for 60,000. Who's gonna give it to me? I'll give them a discount. Give me 200,000. They can take it.
Right.
You know, because at this point, for me to recoup that amount of money, renting it out, it makes no sense because I would have to invest in ACs down the road, which I did. I would have to invest in a new roof, invest in boilers, invest in fixing everything and anything. I mean, it deteriorates.
Right.
So when are you going to recoup that profit?
Right.
Might as well sell. So people are just putting. I know one guy who had, I don't know, 30, 40 homes, and he put them on the market. He said, I bought them so cheap, it makes no sense to keep them and rent them
Right.
out. I'll buy them again.
Yeah. Well, one thing.
So really, it's not SpaceX. Going back to that question, I don't think it's fair to blame SpaceX. I think it's just the whole scenario of the situation
Right.
with COVID, with
Right.
low interest rates. I mean,
Right.
that's one of the reasons also Donald Trump wants to. Okay, it's time to bring down the interest rates. Let's bring them down. Let's bring them down, because he knows it's gonna turn that money and get the money flowing.
I know that
With the homes.
I know that some people are concerned about Starbase incorporation, right? They're planning to incorporate into a city. Um, and one of the things that, some people say, well, that means Brownsville is going to actually lose money. But in reality, and I follow that crowd quite a bit, the reason why Elon Musk wants to incorporate Starbase is because he needs more control over what he builds down there. In other words, there his plans are to launch up to 25 rockets a year from here, right? But in addition to that, you've heard him say that he wants to start launching hundreds of rockets, not only from Starbase, but also from Florida, right, as well. And he wants to increase rocket manufacturing here in Brownsville. The two high bays that were previously built are going to be, they already started tearing them down, and they're building this gigabay. And this gigabay is going to be able to they're going to be able to build 3 or 4 rockets at the same time because he's got this launch schedule, right? So what I was trying to tell people is that it's not for people to live down there. Right? It's not for the employees to live down there. There's going to be executive homes. There's executive homes down there, right? For the bigwigs, right? But the rest of the people are going to have to find homes somewhere else in Cameron County, be it Brownsville, be it Harlingen, San Benito, even the island. In fact, probably the island will be the biggest benefactor, right? Because he'll probably launch a ferry or whatever to go back and forth across the bay, right? But the incorporation is not a danger to Brownsville. It really isn't. What he wants to incorporate is he wants to incorporate so that he can increase his manufacturing output and his launch capability, right? Because at 25 rockets, those 2 launch pads are not enough, right? He needs more launch pads. And the problem that he's running in Florida is that NASA is very leery about giving him any more launch pad capability out there because they're concerned that if a rocket explodes, that it's gonna damage their facilities. So he's getting a little bit of a hard time from Florida, which is to our benefit, right? So I think you're gonna see a lot more people look for homes in the rest of Cameron County because there's not enough land out there for everything,
Mhm.
right? There just isn't. There just isn't, you know.
Well, I mean, my take on them incorporating Starbase into city is that us in Brownsville, what can we do as far as that? I mean, it's part of the county, right? So
Right.
it's county land. It's not Brownsville land, and they, in my opinion, still don't have a lot of room to grow. So because now then you got start encroaching on Brownsville boundary, so it will benefit us because they're
Right.
going to grow into Brownsville,
Right.
kind of like San Benito's growing into Olmito and all areas. It kind of is Brownsville now.
Right.
So we're going to become that metropolitan area that McAllen has.
Right.
So where everybody says, "Oh yeah, we're going to McAllen," kind of Houston. Oh yeah, I live in Houston. No, you don't. You live in Spring. You live in Cypress. You live in the what you live anywhere but Houston. But you just say I live in Houston. Same thing happens in McAllen. I live in McAllen. Well, I mean, you live in
And you know who gets
Hidalgo,
offended when somebody says McAllen is the people in Edinburgh because I saw some kind of post like a couple of days ago where I don't know if it was the city of Edinburgh or somebody Edinburgh mentioned that they were the 3rd largest city in the valley, right? And they touted
wow.
the fact that they are the ones that have the DHR hospital. They're the ones that have their arena. They're the ones, in other words, they wanted to stop this nonsense and people say
Yeah,
it's McAllen.
I would have touted. We're the ones that have Grupo Frontera.
Right? You know, so
one, I'm a big fan of the group, and two, I'm a big let's lift ourselves up and cheer each other on, and when you do well, man, I don't get mad or upset like why did you do good and I didn't. You know what? I love it. I love that everybody does well.
Right. There's enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody.
Yeah,
that's my
and going back to Starbase, the best thing that I think we can do with Starbase is feed off of each other.
Right.
And kind of the same thing that you don't want to be fighting with your neighbor because it just makes life miserable. It's better to get along with your neighbor. The same approach we gotta take with our if they do become a city is how can we benefit from them, from what they're offering this region, which is the rocket launches,
right?
The tourism that brings. I mean, you see how it gets out there on the boats. It's full of boats. We see how I think Mexico is taking more advantage of the viewing of the rocket launches and that than we have been taking with here in Brownsville. How can we monetize it? How can we look at it as a business?
Right.
How can we make money off of it? If some going back to the parking, if someone is willing to give me money, how can I for a service? How can I take that money and give them that exceptional service so that they keep coming back? And maybe that's the same way we can grow our airport, because I know that's another big topic of
Right.
yours that you.
Which I was about to chime into is with the
Yeah,
airport, right?
I don't know. Have you ever flown from this airport? Because I have.
I have multiple
Um,
times.
okay,
Well, let me put you this way:
I used the Velo.
I haven't flown since the new terminal got built. I flew out of Brownsville many times out of the old terminal, right? So I haven't had an opportunity to fly out of the new terminal because I don't fly as much anymore because I work remotely now, so I don't get to fly as often. But
I actually used the Velo and flew into Burbank twice.
what do you think
Once
happened
in
there? What caused Avello to leave? I mean, I know they leave their cities quite often, but I mean, what do you
Mhm.
think went wrong? Do you think it's
Well,
do you
I
believe that
don't
it was
know.
because do you believe because there was no demand? I mean, I don't buy that. I don't know.
I don't. Well, I flew it twice, right? And it was in the summer, I believe June and June and July, June of 23 and July of 24. Um, and so I flew. I used it twice, both times. You know, two separate years. It was the flights were packed. I
Yeah.
mean, there was probably one, maybe if they had one seat available
Wow.
that I could tell that wasn't used. So the flights were packed. I met people that flew into Brownsville that had family in McAllen. So I met this one person who his family who lives in LA, and but they had family in McAllen, so they used actually our airport for their convenience to fly direct here, and then they went off to McAllen, then came back and flew out of Brownsville again. So in that sense, it was working, and then we were guaranteeing uh, revenue.
Right.
So I'm not exactly how much we were guaranteeing. If it was like, okay, I need at least half the playing field so I don't lose money,
Right.
or how much revenue. But we were guaranteeing them X amount of seats,
Right.
or we'll actually pay it out of our own pocket. Which honestly, I don't know how much money the city actually handed. Well, I mean, paid Avelo in the year and a half or 2 years that it was here. But I mean, for the services that they offer, it might not be a bad investment, because we're investing in quality of life for uh, our citizens.
Right.
And we give out grants all the time, so it's not like we don't give out grants. So investing in offering a low cost airline, you know, to me it wasn't a bad investment. I think someone said it was like about $2 million in the 2 year span, or 1.5 million. I don't know,
Right.
something like that the
Which
city
by the
offers.
way, it is standard practice for a lot of cities to offer incentives to airlines. I've been reading a lot of articles lately, when, particularly from Avello, with regards to Avello, and it's not unusual. Give me 1 second, Mike. I have to take this call real quick. Give me 1 second, okay?
Mhm.
Sorry, Mike. As you know, being a father, they call you for money, and they need it now. So
Yeah,
give me 1 second.
my
Give me one
yeah, no,
second
go
while I
ahead.
send
No,
my
go,
daughter money.
go ahead. You know what? It gives me time to turn off my AC. Give me one
All
one
right.
second as well.
All right. The benefits of Cash App.
Oh yeah.
Hold on 1 second here. Give me 1 second. I'm getting another.
That's fine.
Okay, Mike. Sorry about that.
No, it happens. It happens.
It happens. So
Kids always come first.
I know,
I
I
I
know,
I,
right?
I would have done the same if my kids were calling me. So with me, no problem.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is that we've got to find a way to increase the traffic going to the airport. There's a lot of there's we seem to be sometimes losing out to the other airports, right? It doesn't help that we also have competition from Matamoros and Reynosa. A lot of people say, well, we should have international flights to Cancun, Monterrey, Mexico City. But one of the biggest problems now is it's so much cheaper to fly out of Matamoros and Reynosa to those destinations, right? I
Well,
mean,
I mean, I'll tell you. Last summer, I flew out of Harlingen. It's at Sun Colony. I think it's Sun Colony, the airline that takes you to Cancun. And even though even though it would have been a lot cheaper to fly out of Reynosa, since I'm with my kids, I just rather spend the extra
right.
cash and just fly out of here. And we have passports as well, so
Right.
you
Which was
know
kind of surprising, that I know, was it Viva Aerobus that flew out of Harlingen? I can't remember who it was, but they didn't make it, right? They pulled out within about 6 months. I know that
I don't remember.
I think it was I don't know who flies out of McAllen, but it almost seems like, that was a surprise to me. I would have thought, but I think the other thing is they had some competition also from Sun Country, right? But Sun Country is like regional. It's not, I'm not regional, but seasonal, right? But what do you think? I mean, I know there's a small little airline servicing the airport right now. I think they have daily flights to Monterrey, right? Do you think we need to look at international
Well,
destinations, or do you think we should
I
pressure our existing carriers, United and American, to offer?
I think when you're flying, it's still an experience, right?
Yeah,
So where you're flying to and where you're flying into, more importantly, it's also an experience. I went and we spent millions of dollars refurbishing the outside and parking and for